Hey there, it's Jimmy again, and today we're back in the junkyard. If you like what you see, please do hit subscribe and like, and we'll keep doing these. We do all kinds of cars, trucks, vans from all countries, continents, well, everything imaginable. Today we have a 1986 Volvo 240 sedan, and this one's kind of interesting. This one's in pretty good shape actually, and we'll go through it and explain how many miles are on it, take a look at the engine, inside, outside, and everything there is to do with it. So let's start at the front. Well, the Volvo 240 series really was produced for well over about 20 years. Early 70s to 1993 was the last year, and produced in about 10 different countries if memory serves, but most of them were made in Sweden, including most of the ones that we got here in the US. So this is a basic Volvo 240. It came in a sedan and in a wagon. At different times there was also different body styles available, such as a coupe, the two-door, and so forth. This is obviously a later model because it has a larger aerodynamic headlights rather than the four singles. You've got the traditional Volvo grille there. All pretty complete. Of course, those early plastic headlights do tend to yellow. This one's a silver painted one, which is nice. Let's walk around. Let's see which model this actually is. This is obviously the 240, and it's the DL. The DL denotes the deluxe, or in this case, basic trim, but still not completely stripped out. So let's take a look at the engine first. So the 240 came with various engines over the years, but usually always a four-cylinder. I mean, there was a six-cylinder, there's also a turbo available, diesel and so forth, but the basic regular engine would be a four-cylinder. This is the B230F, so it's a 2.3 liter inline four. This one's remarkably complete. Nothing really seems to be missing on it. Looks in good shape. Power steering fluid seems to be leaking a bit there in the hose, and that carries all the way down there. But generally everything seems to be here, so that's not bad at all. Do these have a lot of power? Well, not really. They were adequate. They got you there, but you weren't killing it in the stoplight Grand Prix, that's for sure. You have to step up to the turbo model, which I don't think they offered anymore as of 86. I think 85 was last year. So let's take a look inside. This is interesting. This is a DL, so it is the basic one. So nowadays we're used to all Volvos having leather pretty much. Back then, not so much. This was a pretty sensible vehicle, sort of the European equivalent of a Camry, I guess. But you got this nice velour striped fabric. Here it's a little worn, obviously. Headrests were interesting, just these molded plastic things, which is, check this out. It's got this molded plastic stitching. I mean, it's super cheesy, but it held up. You also had a molded hard plastic headliner, no cloth, super practical, easy to wipe clean if you needed to. Big steering wheel there for safety. Let's see what else we had. We had this one. The radio is nice and high, so you could easily adjust it. This is an aftermarket one made by Optimus. A couple of vents. Then you had the cigarette lighter, defroster. Is that the antenna up and down? Hazard lights, air conditioning switch there for minimum, maximum. Then down here, the temperature slider, the HVAC, where you want the air to go. Bottom, defrost, recirculate. And the fan speed, 0 to 4. You can tell it's an older car. I mean, older design from the 70s, just by the way it's styled. A lot of hard plastics, just not as integrated as a more modern, newer vehicle. Automatic transmission here. Then obviously the seat belts buckled into this interface right there. Kind of, instead of nowadays we're used to the kind of the things on a little wand, but back then Volvo still did them like this. Seat heater switches right down here. Not too shabby. Oh, look, the keys are still in this one. It's ready to go. Let's put a battery in it, maybe. Who knows? And look at this. Check out the gauges. Check out the odometer. 318,704 miles. That's not particularly a lot for a Volvo. I mean, Volvos go a lot more than that, but 318 is very respectable. Very basic. You had a clock, the odometer and speedometer, temperature, and fuel gauge. That's basically it, and a few idiot lights. unleaded fuel only. Over here, fog light switch, and then headlights, and this would have been the dimmer for the instrument panel. Pretty cool. Let's see what you have in the door panel. Door panel, obviously the latch to open it, a very durable grab rest, speaker, manual window winders, also some you don't see in Volvos anymore. This was the DL, so the basic version, so figured you could do it all yourself, roll your own. And on top of that, also manual adjustable mirrors. And as opposed to the Mercedes we saw last week, was it? A few weeks ago? This one's manual, and the Mercedes, the other side was power. But in the Volvo, it's manual also. So you gotta have your passenger help you. But you know, the recurring theme is you kind of get these super durable plastics and materials. I mean, that seat, yeah, it's ripped, but 318,000 miles, that's not to be unexpected. Everything else in here, though, looks pretty good. I mean, the seats could probably clean up really easily. Little 409 would go a long way in here. This one actually even had the dash mat, but you still have some cracking underneath. That was very common back in the 70s and 80s. Not something really we see anymore, is it, in newer cars? Let's see what else. Let's check out the back seat. So here's the back seat. Pretty spacious, not bad at all. Decent leg room, lots of headroom, which is good. This one's an 86, so it has the mandated center mounted stoplight, the Chimsel. Had a seatbelt warning light there, and there's the ashtray for the back. An ashtray is something we don't really see anymore, though. And had these little baby armrests just for your elbow right there. Not even the whole thing, but and then door opener and window winder again. Not bad at all. Let me see, is there any info in the door here? Let's see. Not really. Built in 385 in Sweden. Has a catalytic converter, obviously. And then there's a little reflective warning thing when you open the door. There's no light, but if somebody's coming up behind you, this will reflect their headlights back to them. Door pocket's broken. That's super common on these. They're just hard plastic, and you know what, 30-something years of people kicking them will damage them. So let's see. Power antenna, that's what we saw the switch for inside. And then trunk is actually quite roomy. The spare tire would have stood up right here. This junk's from other stuff, but kind of cool. This has a pass-through ski sack type thing, which came in the later ones. Big rubber bumpers, big taillights, and here's a vestige of the 70s. You had this very high lift-over height to get into the trunk. Not as convenient, but if you want to be convenient, you can get the wagon version. Let's take a look. Passenger side, what's this here? The vehicle capacities, the max load, and so forth. Tire size is 185/70/14, and 26 or 27 psi. Interesting. The spare is 36. Well, so these are actually what's left of the hubcaps. These had these kind of trim rings around here. This was the center part, and then this part with the Volvo logo popped into the middle, or could be removed and or replaced. And here's that mirror switch. But yeah, I mean, fuel fillers here with a little extra thing so that you don't get all over the paint when it drips. And just regular unleaded fuel is fine. Doesn't need premium like a lot of European cars. But yeah, these were solid, and a lot of people bought these for their kids as safe cars, and Volvos are safe cars, and they definitely were safe back then. I mean, this is a base model car, right? And yet, four-wheel disc brakes in 1986, standard equipment. So that's pretty cool. Rear-wheel drive, obviously. It's the rear diff, drive shaft, you can see it on there. Coil springs. These had a good ride. They were cozy. You could just be in them all day long and go for literally hundreds of miles. Comfortable seats, decent, well laid out cabin, and solid vehicle. You felt safe and you felt secure, and you were going to get there and you were going to get back. So that's our walk around of the 86 Volvo 240 DL sedan. And again, if you wouldn't mind, please do hit subscribe and like. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thank you. Bye.